In my Sunday message this morning, I mentioned that in the church, in the world, God seems to use small beginnings to accomplish great and amazing things. I want to share with you this morning a story entitled The Christmas Card. It's written by Robert Smith of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. He tells of a childhood experience that basically changed his life forever. And it's a great story. I hope you enjoy it. It shows how small beginnings can do great things. It's been 30 years since I last saw her, but in memory, she's still there every holiday season. I especially feel her presence when I receive my first Christmas card. I was 12 years old and Christmas was only 2 days away. The season's first blanket of snow, white, magnified the excitement. I dressed hurriedly, for the snow was waiting. What would I do first? Build a snowman? Slide down the hill? Or just throw the flakes in the air and watch them flutter down? Our family station wagon pulled into the driveway, and my mom called me over to help with the groceries. When we finished carrying the bags inside, she said, "Bob, here are Mrs. Hildebrandt's groceries." No other instructions were necessary. As far back as I could remember, Mom shopped for Mrs. Hildebrandt's food, and I delivered it. Our 95-year-old neighbor lived alone. She was crippled from arthritis and could take only a few steps with a cane. I liked Mrs. Hildebrandt. I enjoyed talking with her. More accurately, I enjoyed listening to her. She told me wonderful stories about her life, about a steepled church in the woods, horse and buggy rides on Sunday afternoons, and her family farm without electricity and running water. She always gave me a dime for bringing in her groceries. It got so that I would refuse only half-heartedly, knowing she would insist. 5 minutes later, I'd be across the street at Byers' candy store. As I headed over with my grocery bags, I decided this time would be different. I wouldn't accept any money. This would be my Christmas present to her. Impatiently, I rang the doorbell. Come in," she said cheerfully. "Put the bag on the table." I did so more hurriedly than usual, because I could almost hear the snow calling me back outside. She sat at the table, picked the items out of her bag, and told me where to set them on the shelves. I usually enjoy doing this, but it was snowing. As we continued, I began to realize how lonely she was. Her husband had died more than 20 years before. She had no children, and her only living relative was a nephew in Philadelphia who seldom visited. Nobody ever called on her at Christmas. There would be no tree, no presents, no stocking. For her, Christmas was now only a date on the calendar. She offered me a cup of tea, which she did every time I brought in her groceries. Well, maybe the snow could wait, I thought. We sat and talked about what Christmas was like when she was a child. Together we traveled back in time, and an hour passed before I knew it. "Well, Bob, you must be wanting to play outside in the snow," she said, as she reached for her purse, fumbling for the right coin. "No, Mrs. Hildebrandt, I can't take your money this time. You can use it for more important things," I insisted. She looked at me and smiled. "What more important thing could I use this money for, if not to give it to a friend at Christmas?" she asked, and then placed a whole quarter in my hand. I tried to give it back, but she would have none of it. So I hurried out the door and ran over to Byers' candy store with my fortune. I had no idea what to buy. Comic books, a chocolate soda, ice cream. Then I spotted a Christmas card with an old country church in the woods on the cover. It was just like the church Mrs. Hildebrandt described to me, and I knew I had to buy it for her. I handed Mr. Buyer my quarter and borrowed a pen to sign my name. "For your girlfriend?" Mr. Buyer asked. I started to say no, but I quickly changed my mind. "Well, yeah, I guess so." As I walked back across the street with my gift, I was so proud of myself, I felt like I had just hit a home run to win the World Series. No, I felt even better than that. I rang Mrs. Hildebrandt's doorbell. "Hello, Mrs. Hildebrandt," I said as I handed her the card. "Merry Christmas." Her hands trembled as she slowly opened the envelope, studied the card, and began to cry. Thank you very much," she said in almost a whisper. "And Merry Christmas to you." On a cold and windy afternoon, a few weeks later, the ambulance arrived next door. My mom said they found Mrs. Hildebrandt in bed. She had died peacefully in her sleep. Her night table light was still on when they found her, and it illuminated a solitary Christmas card with an old country church in the woods on the cover. The end.